Welcome to OkState Daily. Casey Porter here. We already have a crowd logging in. Hopefully this will be a nice and lively post-game show, as I say each and every week. We like to use some reason and logic, but I'll tell you what, it's getting to that point to where it is absolutely ridiculous. So let me start this show by saying, okay, Oklahoma State fans have every right to demand change. You know, I think you guys, if you follow me whatsoever, you know, I'm a big fan of Coach Gundy. I'm a big fan of the X and O ability of Brian Nardo, although it's not showing, and it's not just not. There are no X's and O's of this defense. I'm going to get into that as we go on. Not as big of a fan of Casey Dunn, never have been, but I'm really not a fan whatsoever of ever, you know, until, especially when you've had the success OSU's had. And to be honest with you, in some weird way, OSU has actually outperformed their talent level. I mean, you just go look at NFL rosters. I know we've had a couple of NFL running backs and that kind of thing, but OSU's had a lot, especially if you go all the way back to 2005. OSU's put a better product on the field than they have in the recruiting classes. So they've outperformed, even in the last couple of years, they've outperformed their talent, which seems weird because, man, when you look at what OSU put out there, both offensively and defensively, from a schematical perspective today, it just was, I mean, what? I mean, wow. I mean, how do you explain it? Like a guy like me who wants to be able to defend these coaches. I want to be able to tell people that Mike Gundy, you know, he was a reminder, you know. I was telling a guy earlier today, I think Oklahoma State fans need to be reminded that Mike Gundy was the Big 12 Coach of the Year last year. I mean, we're 6 games removed from Mike Gundy being the Big 12 Coach of the Year. I want to be able to defend that guy. I want to be able to say that our offense is trying to control the clock. They're trying to play complementary football to our defense. I want to be able to say that Brian Nardo is putting good scheme together. He's solving the puzzle. If you followed me, you've heard me say that many different times about him. I want to be able to find the things that Oklahoma State and their coaches, their players can build off of. But when you go out there and you're like your biggest adjustment, I mean, you're a Division I coach, right? You're literally your 2 biggest adjustments today to your entire offense was you put Rashad Owens at the single and then you put Des Stribling to the multi-receiver side. That's adjustment number 1, which makes absolutely no sense because Rashad Owens needs to be played closer to being attached because he needs to be that post-up guy, your mesh route guy in the middle of the field, your hot guy off of an RPO down the seam. He needs to use his big body. He needs to shield off a safety, and he needs to make himself turn around, show his numbers to the quarterback, and make a quarterback like Alan Bowman that's not very accurate and right now not confident at all. Have a big target that will catch the ball like we did in the perfect case scenario. You guys remember the touchdown pass that Alan Bowman threw to Rashad Owens? That's the catches that Rashad Owens needs. So your adjustment is to move him further away from the line of scrimmage instead of to make him a single, instead of making him the multi-receiver side where he can run route combos and end up in the middle of the field off of maybe an out cut by Brennan Presley or whatever it may be. It does appear that Gavin Freeman, he was not in uniform today. It appears that he has elected to take a red shirt this year, which is great because he needs to play that Brennan Presley role next year. So that's your major adjustment, is to switch Des Stribling and Rashad Owens and take away your ability to post up Rashad Owens. Why? I mean, my question would have to be from an X and O guy, and hey, I'm just a dude behind a microphone that doesn't know shit, right? I just really don't. I mean, I'm not trying. Trust me, I'm frustrated. I voice my opinion. I like to defend the coaches. I like to get as positive as I can. Let me explain something. Being positive is different than enabling. Being positive isn't, hey, it's okay. Everything's all right, Johnny. You did your best. That's not being positive. That's enabling. Okay? What being positive is is telling somebody what they need to do in whatever way they need to hear it to create a positive outcome. Okay? So in my opinion, in my simple brain right here, me telling Casey Dunn or Mike Gundy with my absolute 1,000% less knowledge of the game of football than they have. Trust me. I'm not going there at all. I'm just really just kind of giving my ideas, right? Which is what we all do. Okay? I'm not trying to claim any kind of dominance like they're dumbasses and we all know better. I'm not trying to do any of that. Okay? But in my simple mind, I'm thinking Rashad Owens is closer to a tight end than he is a split out. The best catches he makes, the most effective ways that he's used are on the mesh routes and when he posts up. You have a quarterback that has no confidence, so you're going to take your biggest, most physical receiver and you're going to move his ass all the way out to the sideline. That's your adjustment this week? I mean, okay, I could be wrong, okay? There could be a great explanation for that, and it could blow everything I just said out of the water. But that's adjustment number one, okay? And then adjustment number two is you're going to put a little West Coast offense element into your game, and you're going to make your running back an outlet, okay? Which now means you have one less blocker, which now means you have an Alan Bowman that one of the biggest complaints everybody has is that he's not tough. He doesn't stand in the pocket. He gets scared. He gets a little bit of a rush. We see that. He flushes the pocket. He flushed the pocket on fourth down today. He killed a fourth down play because he wouldn't stand in the pocket and just throw the ball down the field and give ourselves a chance. Instead, he flushes the pocket. He flutters one up 7 yards in front of the sticks. Even if we caught it, it was going to be 8 yards short, right? I think it's 4th and 15. I'm telling you, if I'm his teammate at that point, I'm going, hey, dude, you realize it's fourth down. It's okay. You're a quarterback. It's okay to get hit every now and then, all right? That's how I'm thinking if I'm a teammate. I'm not very impressed with that if I'm his teammate at that point. It's fourth down. Give your team a chance, okay? And, okay, say what you will. I'm going to go back to what I said just a minute ago. Being positive isn't being a cheerleader. Being positive is telling somebody what they need to do, and this is my opinion, and again, I could be wrong, but telling somebody what they need to do to create a positive outcome both for them and their team, okay? So you swing out a back, and that's your outlet, right? That's your big. Those are your two big adjustments for this week on offense. Well, your quarterback can't run, so they take a safety or they take a linebacker. They cover Ollie, they cover Sessi in the flat, like we saw him do. So they have one less guy in the box. So, that only matters if your quarterback can take off and run right to that hole that the linebacker vacated by swinging a back out. That's the old scat route that Dana Holgorsen ran. Now, I'm not wrong about this. The number one because I actually sat and listened to Dana Holgorsen talk about this for, an hour at a football clinic in Oklahoma back in 2011, 10, somewhere in there, whatever year it was. And he said, if there's anything that you put in your offense, okay, the first thing you need to put in your offense is the scat concept. So what the scat concept is, you saw West Virginia run it over and over and over and over today. They have the two backs, right? And so you swing out the two backs out into the flats. And so that half player that Mike Gundy likes to say is such a gigantic nuisance to our offense. Our offense is, I guess, so, I don't know, it's just so fragile that if there's a half of a player can blow the whole thing up, right, which seems to have happened all year, okay? So what happens is that half player, the quarterback reads that half player. If that half player goes and chases the running back on that little scat route, on that little flat route, then you have Rashad Owens or Brennan Presley who post up. It's called a replacement route, and they just sit in that little spot in the zone where that linebacker vacated by chasing the running back. If the running back stays home and anchors down on the post up, then you swing it out to your back. Oklahoma State ran that with tight ends. They ran it with inside receivers. They ran it out of trips. They ran it out of 2x2. They ran it out by 3x1. They ran it out of every single. So it's one of those deals that if you heard Tracy Moore on our interview this week, he said, hey, we only had a couple of concepts, 5 or 6. We just got really good at the ones that we did. So you take a concept like that where Alan Bowman literally is reading one player, you're making the half player wrong, and he knows the ball is going to be out of his hands no matter what in 2 seconds. So he doesn't have to worry about scanning the entire field and getting hit and having to kind of man up. And now, hey, I never played Division I quarterback. I don't know what it feels like to get hit by those big suckers coming and get you. So who in the hell am I to tell Alan Bowman to stand in there and get hit and take a hit and deliver a ball like his team needs? So who am I to say that, right? Okay, I mean, that's pretty crappy of me to do. But having said that, that's the profession he chose. He chose to be a quarterback at the Division I level. He accepted the NIL money. You take that money, then in my opinion, you are no longer hands off. You aren't, okay? You want to be an amateur? You want to come to Oklahoma State? You want to be on the training table? You want to have all the amenities, the 5-star hotels that you stay in, okay? The 5-star buffets that you get to eat every day, the free education. Wonderful. That is exactly what college is supposed to be. You want to take money? You want to basically become a professional? Then produce, or I'm pissed, right? It turns into that. I hate it. That's what college football and college athletics is. But you are no longer hands off once you start becoming a professional like that and taking money, right? So, all right. Those are the 2 big adjustments Oklahoma State made. Just go back to my pregame, go back to any posts that I made on social media, and I think you'll find that there were a couple of things I was right about. Oklahoma State, to a maddening, stubborn level, of which I know Coach Nardo isn't stubborn, so I just can't for the life of me figure out what the hell is going on, is playing a 4-man front. They're playing man coverage on the back. They're blitzing one linebacker. West Virginia is swinging out a second back. And so when you blitz, you have 4 down linemen, you have 2 linebackers. One linebacker is chasing. So Oklahoma State actually covered that most of the time, that swing, with a safety, and left both linebackers in the box a lot. But having said that, you're still losing one player. You're losing a layer of your defense, okay? So they're playing man coverage on the back. So when you blitz one linebacker, okay, that leaves you one linebacker in the middle of the field and 4 very unathletic defensive linemen. And when I say unathletic, they're awesome athletes. I'm talking about in comparison to who they're trying to contain. Blaine Green is a great athlete. There is no defensive lineman that Oklahoma State has on roster that has any chance to contain Blaine Green. If your plan is for your defensive line to contain Blaine Green, then you need a different plan. You need to have guys that are as athletic as, I keep saying Blaine Green, I know, but I'm sorry, guys, Garrett Green. Blaine Green's a receiver at Oklahoma State last year. You need to have guys that are covering Avery Johnson, Blaine Green, Isaac Wilson, that are as athletic as they are. You know who those guys are? Safeties. You know who those guys are? Kendall Daniels, right? So West Virginia swings out of back. We blitz our second linebacker. Saw that all day long, right? And then the blitz doesn't get home. Our secondary's in man coverage. Their backs are turned to the quarterback. They don't even see the quarterback scramble. Now the quarterback breaks a rush lane. The blitz doesn't get home. Now you tell me who's left between the blitzing linebacker that didn't get home and the secondary that's running down the field. Who's left? From a schematic perspective, I'm not very smart. Somebody tell me who's left. Okay? That's not players. That's not talent. That's not anything other than this is what we've been doing all year. We've been putting the same man coverage behind 40 fronts, blitzing linebackers all year long. And guys like Neil Brown, their Division I coaches, they know how to do this. I literally said they're going to swing out of back against that. Oklahoma State's going to blitz. We're not going to get home. And because of that, Garrett Green is going to bust out to some big plays. There's receipts of it. Go back to the pregame. Go back to my Twitter. Go back to my Facebook. It's all right there. So if simple-minded me, who knows a millionth of what these Division I coaches know, a millionth, if I can figure that out, don't you think Division I coaches can figure that out? That's kind of what I'm saying here, okay? So I'll say this. If anybody in the organization watches this, which they won't, I hope they don't. I hope they stay away from social media. But if anybody in the organization watches this, an assistant coach, a head coach, a player, and you're pissed about what I'm saying right now, you need to get tougher. You're playing Division I football, okay? Wah. That's all I got to say about that. Because, hey, I'll tell you what, I've been coming to Oklahoma State football games, and I've missed maybe less than a handful of home games, including the Ice Bowl. I go to all the home games. I got a receipt right here. I got a receipt I posted with 3 or 4 minutes to go. I stayed till the last buzzer, okay, because I love OSU football, okay? I just love watching them play. I like watching them win more, obviously, okay? So people paid $150 or so to go to this game. They paid $50 an hour to watch this. If criticism off of the performance that you put out there hurts your feelings, sorry. Sorry. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Too bad, right? And if this is considered like, negative or irrational or any of that, it's not, okay? Explain to me where I'm wrong, okay? I'm not just on here bitching, moaning, ranting, being irrational. I'm explaining to you, in my mind, the way that I see it, where the X's and O's are going wrong, okay? We don't have two different flow reads in our run game, haven't all year. So teams are just keying in on Ollie. I mean, okay, we have the ball down the goal line. We run a quarterback sneak, which, hey, if you remember, Alan Bowman actually scored on that play last year, okay, against OU, I think it was. So that play has worked. So when we ran it didn't work, I was like, oh, that's actually not a terrible play call. But in the situation, the way things are going, the way people are already booing, that play is not going to be perceived very well from Oklahoma State fans. So now it's 2nd down and goal, and then we throw a corner route. The only time we throw it to a tight end all day, we throw a corner route from the 7-yard line. Let me give you a little bit of story. Okay, Guthrie's won 4 state titles, where I've worked for 30 years. Okay, and this is like after Kai Staley had graduated. Kai's at OSU at this time. This is like 2009, right? And we're at McAllister, and we have a play call, and it comes in, and it's a corner route to I think it was actually a slot receiver from like the 12-yard line. Our quarterback takes the ball, he slams it in the ground, and he turns over to the sideline. He goes, okay, now let's call a real play and let's go score a touchdown, right? So that's kind of what I thought. So you're going to throw it to the tight end one time today, and it's going to be on a corner route from the 7-yard line where the field could not be any more condensed. And I'm just doing one of those like, Casey, I want to defend you. Coach Gundy, I want to defend you. I hate these shows. These aren't fun. But how? I mean, when you come out in the second half, you've had the entire half. Coach Gundy's come on his post-game shows and this and that, and he's talked about, second half adjustments, culture. Well, we don't panic. Well, because of that, we think and we figure things. And then you come out and run that, and then it's like the most simple 3 and out. It's a complete dud. I don't know how else to put it. To start the second half, that's after you let West Virginia, who, by the way, they're a good offense, okay? They're nothing, whatever. You score to make it 24-7. You have a little bit of momentum. You're thinking, okay, this is another Arkansas. We've seen this book before. Oklahoma State finally wakes up. They get the ball to start the second half. It's 24-14. Game on. That's what I'm thinking, right? And then we call the timeout after the first down play, which after we stopped the running play, I thought was a great call. Matter of fact, I yelled it out loud. Timeout, timeout, timeout. They called the timeout, right? And then we let West Virginia go right down the field and score. I mean, that was the end of the game right there. You allow West Virginia to have the ball 41 minutes, 42 minutes. You allow them to have, 2 to 3 times more first downs than you had. They ran the ball. They threw the ball. The quarterback threw the ball. The quarterback ran the ball. Their backup quarterback had one play on the day. One play. Guess what it was? It was a touchdown pass. So if in my mind, if you want to hear, if you're in the organization, you're watching this, which nobody will, okay? In my mind, I'm being positive because you know what I think I'm doing? I'm telling you what I think you need to hear coming from a fan for you, whoever you are in the organization, to create a positive outcome that Oklahoma State fans deserve. People like me, now that doesn't mean I'm entitled. I hope that doesn't sound like I hope I'm not sounding entitled. But when you've been coming to game for 50 years, when you're paying $150 a ticket, when you've created what Mike Gundy has said, one of the best college football environments in the United States of America, you deserve to see better football than that. Then I'll tell you another thing you deserve. I don't think that's a spoiled brat, hey, we're spoiled by Mike Gundy's success take. I don't think that's an entitled take. If you think that's an entitled take, and boy, we have a great crowd. Hey, make sure, don't just watch. Leave some comments. Let's get into a conversation about this. Don't let me dominate this. I want to hear what you have to say as well. If you think that's an entitled viewpoint, I've been a diehard fan for 51 years. If you think I'm being entitled because Oklahoma State has had success lately, let me know. Let's have a conversation about it. Okay? But Oklahoma State deserves better than what they've seen. Okay, I sat through the 1991 game when Oklahoma State almost beat TCU. When, what year was it? In 2000, they almost beat OU. In 92, you remember 1992? In the OU game, we tied them. Okay, we weren't getting beat by 38 points like this 3 times in a row by average teams. I mean, there were times where we didn't play good, right? But it was like, even then, even when like Fred Thomas was our quarterback, Shannon Culver was our best receiver, and then Tony Jones came and he had Gary Porter there for a minute. And then like it is now, Scott Tyner was our best player on our team, the punter, right? But even and then David Thompson came in. Even in those days, okay? And I've talked to these guys. Just go back to my Mike Curtis interview. I've interviewed a couple of these guys from that generation, okay? There was a hunger. There still were people in an 0-10-1 season on that team that played every game inspired. They played every game for the brand on the front of their jersey, and it hurt them. It cut through them to not be able to produce and perform for Oklahoma State University. Trust me, that's not my opinion. I saw it with my own eyes, and I have talked to these guys. I know a lot of these guys. I know it cut right through these guys to lose games like that. So even in the 0-10-1, even in the 3-8s, you would go to a game and you'd go, damn, we just don't have very much talent. But, man, I'm kind of proud of the way the guys played, right? Which I know that's kind of a loser way of looking at things. I get it. That's a moral victory type way. You know, the participation trophy, of which, if you know me, I'm not about participation. I get it. But I'd still rather leave the stadium with the feeling of, damn, man, those dudes just laid it on the line. They played their guts out like some of the OU games. They just didn't have enough talent to win today. I can I'm fine. I mean, I'd rather win, right? I mean, I hate it. It's Division I sports. But when you left today, I mean, as a fan, you left completely empty. You're like, that's the most uninspired group of kids I've ever seen put on an Oklahoma State uniform, okay? Mike Gundy needs to be loyal to the fans, not to adults that make 4 times as much money as any of the people that have spent their hard-earned money to be at that game. He needs to be loyal to the fans, not adults that are making $1 million a year. If they get their feelings hurt, too bad. I'm too big of a fan of Oklahoma State. I care too much about it to care whether they get their feelings hurt or not. I don't care, okay? You know what I want? And I'm not asking Oklahoma State to be a national champion. I'm not even asking them to be the Big 12 champion. You know what I want? I want to go to a game like I did even in 1991 when they were 0-10-1, and I want to leave the stadium feeling like every single kid on that team during that 3.5 hours played for the brand. I want to, at the very least, leave the stadium feeling like that. There is no way even the biggest sunshine pumper in the history of the time, of which I can be from time to time, that's fine. There's no way even that guy or girl can make that claim today. Because if you're going to tell me you saw anything other than a group that was uninspired to play football today, I'm going to disagree with you in every way possible. I was disgusted with everything I saw today. The game plans, the scheme, the effort. And if that hurts your feelings as a player, let me explain something to you, okay? You've had a hell of a bunch of players that I get to talk to. I have the honor to talk to these guys that have put out a lot of blood and guts and sweat and tears. People have put out money. They put out time to give you a program that has put you in the national spotlight. There is a lot of people that have paved this pathway for you to go out and have this opportunity to play at Oklahoma State at a period of time where it's one of the best programs in college football, okay? It's your job to, trust me, they won't say it because they have class, because they don't want to throw shade on the program that helped make them, right? But there is no way somebody that helped build this Oklahoma State program into what it is and put all of that time and effort into it could watch today and think anything other than, what in the hell is going on? I just don't see any other way that any former player could watch this and have any pride in what this year's team has become. Now, having said that, the season's not over, okay? There's still time left to figure it out. There's still time. You have a bye week. You can throw some things together. I'm going to give you some of my opinions of things that Oklahoma State, last year they reinvented themselves in the offseason, in the off week. If I say like off season instead of off week, I do that all the time when I don't have a partner and nobody's able to correct me. Just kind of understand the context of what I'm saying and don't necessarily pay attention to the exact word. Hey, what a wonderful crowd we have right now. And I'm going to get to some of these comments here in a second, but I'm going to get to some of, when we get done with these comments, some of the things that I think Oklahoma State can do in the extra week they have with this off week, this bye week coming up, to get back on track, to add some excitement, which I think if you watched Oklahoma State and the players today, The coaches have to do something to create some excitement with these kids. They're bored out of their ass, man. You saw a group of kids today that were bored out of their ass with the schemes they were asked to run today. They knew the schemes weren't going to work. They knew that it was going to be exactly what happened. And so why get excited about that? That's what I saw. If you disagree with me, leave a comment here. Hey, we have a wonderful crowd logging in. Caden Armstrong, all he could have very well played his last snap tonight in an Oklahoma State jersey. Business decisions. I don't know how hurt he is now. I'll say this. Rex said on the postgame show, Game Day Live at Joe's, Zane Flores, they thought that maybe his foot would heal. This is what Rex is hearing. They thought his foot would heal, but it didn't. And so he has a broken foot and probably not coming back. Rex also said he heard that Nick Martin will not be coming back this year. So those are two big blows. So I think QB1 squarely now becomes Garrett Rangel. I don't think you have any other choice. There is just no reason whatsoever that anybody could ever explain to me what good it would do. Hey, Alan Bowman, if you follow this place, if you follow me, I am so appreciative of what Alan Bowman did for Oklahoma State last year. He took a disaster as big as what we have right now. He took the bull by the horn. He took the reins. He got things together. He organized it. He became the leader, and he got us to a Big 12 championship, and he made Oklahoma State football relevant again. Last year should have been this year, but in my opinion, Ollie Gordon and Alan Bowman didn't allow it to become that. I think Alan Bowman was a big part of that. So for that, I am so thankful to Alan Bowman. Okay? It hasn't worked this year. We're not going to the Big 12 championship game. We might not even be going to a bowl. We have to win 3 out of our last 6 games, and those games, they're all winnable, but they're all losable too, right? Now, I mean, I've said a couple of times now, many times, Mike Gundy usually figures out a way to be resilient enough to win at least 6 games, right? He always has, except for his first year. But having said that, this is the first time Oklahoma State has started 0-3 in conference, I believe, since Mike Gundy's first year in 2005, and it's the first time they've lost back-to-back-to-back games since 2014. Those are the 2 worst the seasons of Mike Gundy. That's the kind of crap we're watching right now, right? Okay, so I just don't see any purpose, even as much respect as I have for Alan Bowman, as much love and appreciation as I have for him. I love OSU more. And it's in OSU's best interest to move on to the future, right? No offense, Alan. No offense to any of that. I appreciate everything you've done. I love you as a young man and all that kind of stuff. I love the leadership you brought while especially last year. But I love OSU more. And OSU right now needs to look to its future. I wish Zane Flores was available from what I'm hearing, what Rex is hearing. He's not. Fine. Let's see what Garrett Rangel can have, because I think we would all have to agree Garrett Rangel has not been good, but also he's been put in some ridiculously terrible situations that have been kind of unfair to be able to judge him from. So why not? At least he has a chance to come back next year. So at the very least, let's say you play Garrett Rangel and he's not real great, okay? At least now, if he stays, he's going to at least be a better backup quarterback than he would have been if he didn't play at all this year, right? Bottom line is, regardless of how good Rangel is, there is just no purpose of playing a 7th-year quarterback anymore at Oklahoma State. This reminds me of 1985 when you had Leslie O'Neal, John Washington, Matt Monger, Paul Blair. You had all these seniors. They thought they're going to win the Orange Bowl, go to the Orange Bowl, then they lose to OU. The Orange Bowl is out of the equation. They don't want to go to the Gator Bowl for the 2nd year in a row, and they go to the Gator Bowl very uninspired. That's what you're seeing from these seniors right now. Turn the page. Let's see what we got for the future. The one thing you can't do, hey, you can have a clunker of a year. Everybody has them. It happens, right? Okay, I have no problem with that. You're going to have clunkers. But what you can't have is a clunker and then also be so stubborn that you're playing all your older guys. and not developing for the future. So when you have that clunker, what you have to do is you have to hedge your bets, play your young guys, and build for the future, right? Like we did with Mason Rudolph. You have to at least do that, okay? So that's the stage, in my opinion, that Oklahoma State is at right now. We are squarely in a rebuilding season, not a reload. So let's make the tough decisions. I know that these guys have stuck around. They've been loyal to you. But you know what? They have been loyal. But you know what else? They've been given a pretty damn good gig here at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State doesn't owe these guys anything. Mike Gundy does not owe any of these seniors anything. They're getting a pretty damn good deal to be at Oklahoma State, right? If not, they wouldn't have came back. We don't owe them anything, right? What Mike Gundy owes Oklahoma State is to put the football program in the best position to stay relevant. That's what Mike Gundy owes. He doesn't owe his players. He owes Oklahoma State, right? He owes the fans. And he needs to understand that. That's who he owes, right? Okay, what a great crowd we have logging in. I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. Mig Murr, the boos were out early and often, not even competitive. Pretty embarrassing. Mig Murr, I don't know any other way to put it other than this was from start to finish super embarrassing. This was absolutely embarrassing. Oklahoma State, of course, that first drive, they run the ball pretty good with Ollie. They have some stuff going, and they get that holding penalty. It's like 3rd and 15. They don't complete the pass, and you just kind of hear those tint of boos. And the stadium was full, but you could kind of feel people weren't charged about it. They were more ready to be pissed than they were to be excited today. Caden Armstrong, who is the quarterback for the remainder of the season. My quarterback is Garrett Rangel. It would be Zane Flores. I can't remember the freshman's name right now out of California. I know Mike Gundy probably doesn't think he's ready. It would be Zane Flores if he was healthy, but he's not from what I hear, so I think that becomes Garrett Rangel. Bill G., I agree with everything you're saying. Craig Smith, this dump just fired is a direct result of multiple years of poor recruiting, whether anybody will admit it or not. Bingo. Craig, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Oklahoma State has outperformed their recruiting classes. So what's happened is, what Mike Gundy has always done, he's gotten a really good quarterback. He's gotten a couple, 3 or 4 really, really play-making, difference-making receivers, and then an NFL running back. And so those 3 or 4 players have been able to be game changers enough where they've covered up the rest of the roster that is either a step below or just on par with the Kansases of the world. So what we're seeing now, when those 3 or 4 players don't step up and act like the game changers that they need to be, like an Alan Bowman, like an Ollie Gordon, which, hey, Ollie Gordon, whatever. I still say his vision isn't good. He's running into the back of it. I still say you can bounce it outside. You can bend it back, cut it back. You can try to outrun somebody for 4. I mean, we see the other teams back. I still say, yes, the offensive line is terrible. Yes, the scheme is terrible. Yes, he's getting hit in the backfield too much. I'm not disagreeing with any of that. But I still say his vision hasn't been as good as it was last year. His decision-making and conviction on where to – hey, last year he was convicted. I'm cutting this thing back. I'm busting this thing. I'm bouncing it. He was very convicted after we went to the gap scheme, right? And I'm going to get to some ideas that I think Oklahoma State could turn to in their off week maybe to fix some of this. You know, so I think some of it is on Ollie Gordon. I could be wrong. I know if you look at the stats, he's getting the same amount of yards after first contact as he did last year, so I'm probably wrong there. And what I'm probably seeing is that because he's getting hit in the backfield, he's not getting started. And because he's not getting started, it's making him look a step slower because he's the bigger guy that takes a little bit longer to get going, right? Bill G., the most infuriating thing right now is that Gundy has made it clear that he couldn't care less about what fans and supporters think. You talk about an entitled mindset. That is the stubbornness of Mike Gundy. It's the arrogance of Mike Gundy, and it is a blessing and a curse. He is so slow to make changes. I say it all the time. Hey, what a wonderful crowd we have logging in. Thank you so much for tuning into this post-game show, everybody. This is just a wonderful crowd. It's more so, if you can't tell, therapeutic for me. I'm such a diehard fan. Hey, and I had somebody tell me the other day I'm too devoted as a fan to be an analyst. Fine, whatever. This is entertainment. I'm not trying to be an analyst. I'm just up here talking. All I want to do is get behind a microphone and have other OSU fans to talk to. That's all I'm really trying to do here. You call it what you want, but I'm just an OSU fan that wants to talk to other OSU fans and have a forum to be able to express our frustration or happiness or excitement or whatever in a way that we enjoy, right? That's all I'm trying to do. You can call it, use whatever word you want, but that is a blessing and a curse, because his stubbornness, of which he has a stubborn streak a mile wide, leads him to make very slow decisions. He always gets to the right decision. He's always gotten to the right quarterback, but it's like 4 or 5 games later than everybody else would have, right? Like a lot of OSU fans would have benched Alan Bowman 3 games ago. Well, Mike Gundy now has benched Alan Bowman, but it's like 3 games after the fans would have. But there's also been times that you probably don't realize by him sticking with somebody. See, it's more so than just the results. Like whenever you stick with somebody, I can tell you this on my Dodgers Daily site. I talked to, you can just go over to it. I've talked to 300-400 different professionals, major leaguers, minor leaguers, managers, broadcasters, you name it. And the one thing that they always say is that it really gives them confidence when their manager shows that he has their back, right? So what Mike Gundy is doing when he's being stubborn and deliberate like that, while we want immediate results as a fan, what he's doing in his mind is he's showing his players that he has their back. And by him having their back, that breeds a certain amount of confidence in them that you can't get otherwise. If you're pulling them every time they throw an interception, this and that, and you're showing them that you don't have their back, there's no way that, especially your quarterback, is ever going to play with confidence. So I don't necessarily disagree with his philosophy on slow playing all of his quarterback decisions, because you have to show your quarterback, just like a baseball player, where it's a game of failure. Baseball players are always dealing with failure, and it is absolutely vital that their manager, time after time after time, shows them that he trusts them and that he has their back. I don't have a problem with Mike Gundy slow playing the quarterback situations, because he is showing his quarterbacks he has their back and he is breeding confidence in them. But it is maddening as a fan to watch, because it seems like it's always 4 or 5 games late, if not more than that, right? And then the arrogance to think, oh, hell, I can do whatever I want. I'm the greatest coach Oklahoma State's ever had. I can go in and bring in whatever coordinator from whatever level I want. Nobody can tell me what to do. By God, I'm Mike Gundy, right? Okay? Mike Gundy is arrogant. He has a definite arrogance to him, but it's like I was talking about in one of my interviews this week. For competitive people, to be honest with you, it's an arrogance that you want to follow. It's not an arrogance that turns you off. That arrogance also is what's created this Oklahoma State mentality of winning. His arrogance has created a confidence in this program that you couldn't get, I think, if he didn't have that aspect to his personality. But it also creates situations to where he feels like Bill's saying here, to hell with it, I'm Mike Gundy. I know what's best for OSU. You don't know what's best for OSU, so piss on you. I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, right? That can definitely come off as entitlement. And so I definitely see what Bill G is saying there, but I do think there are 2 sides to that. Caden Armstrong, honestly don't think they can recruit better. They can't compete for 4 or 5 stars. So why even try and waste time and money trying? That's been Mike Gundy's philosophy. So what happened with Mike Gundy is he went after the 4 or 5 stars, the Herschel Sims and all those kind of guys, and then they would back out in the last second, and then he would be left like the night before signing day with nobody. So then he would have to go get the Jeff Cards, which are like low 2-star recruits, and he was left kind of with his pants down. So what he decided to do instead of that, let's just go get the solid to upper tier 3-star, the guys that won't pull out the last second. That way we have an entire roster full of 3-star to upper level 3-star kids. Let's add some superstar position or skill players around them, and bingo, about every third or fourth year, I can have a great team, and then I can make a bowl every other year. That's been the formula, and it's worked. I mean, I don't think anybody can argue with the formula he's put together to create a consistent winner at Oklahoma State. And you got to admit, in 2021, we were a couple of inches away from making the playoffs. Last year, we were playing Texas to win the Big 12 championship. It has worked. Let me remind people, Mike Gundy was the Big 12 Coach of the Year last year. We're 6 games removed from our head coach being the Big 12 Coach of the Year. So I'll say this. He has earned the right. I say this every time we come to a crossroads of Mike Gundy. It comes quite a bit, 09, 14, all these seasons. I think last year was a crossroads. Okay, 2022 is a crossroads. Okay, he has earned the right. I've said this every time. He's earned the right to make the changes that he thinks need to be made, right? But nobody will ever have the right to deny that changes need to be made. These aren't fixes that need to happen. These are changes that need to happen, whether it be scheme, personnel, whatever. Mike Gundy has the right to make those changes and make the changes he thinks that are needed, but he doesn't have the right to deny that changes are needed. I hope I explained that properly, because that's just how I always feel when we come to these crossroads. Hey, Nate, ATC1, love your interview with Adarius. I was in the band 0507, and it brought back great memories. Man, Adarius Bowman is just an absolutely badass dude. And here, so I'm having these interviews, and I can tell you, I talked to Tracy Moore, Adarius Bowman. These guys are out in these hotbed communities. They're spreading the good love for Oklahoma State. And the more that we can appreciate these guys, give them forums to come on and show how much Oklahoma State meant to them, their love for the university. The more times we can do this, whether it be Triple Play Sports or KSBI or Locked On Oklahoma State or on the Believe in Oklahoma State, all these wonderful podcasts that we have about OSU football, the more we can get these guys back on and connected to Oklahoma State that are still connected to all these communities, the more they're going to spread the love to all these other guys that they need to come to OSU. Recruiting is all a circuit, right? I mean, it's all just a big network. And so I'm very proud of that work. So thank you so much, Nate, for bringing that up. And trust me, there's much more to come. Mark Moore, who's in the coaching industry, going to release his interview on Monday. I got Jay Fleshman coming and much, much more down the line. Nightland Company is a proud 2009 alumni. Now that OU and Texas are gone, our Oklahoma State Cowboys should win the Big 12 every year. We got to recruit better. Maybe not every year. That's tough. But, yeah, a lot of people, I think, thought Oklahoma State would be the standard bearer of the Big 12, them in Utah. And it hasn't happened. I think you could make the case. See, here's the weird thing. Here's another thing Mike Gundy needs to move on from. I know it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, especially. Here's another thing. When you're Mike Gundy, you've had as much success as he's had, it's hard to convince him he's wrong on anything because he's convicted in what he does because it's always worked, right? But I would say this. If he watches this, which he won't, but if it gets back to him, okay, he's got to change his opinion on this. Look at the three programs in the Big 12 this year that have the most experience. You know who they are? Oklahoma State, Kansas, UCF. Now you tell me what kind of seasons those teams are having. This, in the day of transfer portal and NIL, has made experience out the window. Put the best players out there. That's what it's all about. It's about creating excitement. This is the day of TikTok, where the videos are 8 seconds long, right? Snapchat, where it goes away after a certain amount of time, right? Okay, so what these kids need Okay? Like Adarius Bowman said Mike Gundy would like ask him what kind of uniforms and socks they wanted to wear. Okay? What these kids want now is they want the ball. They have to be stimulated. They have to have schemes on offense and schemes on defense that excite them. When they look at the game plan and coach installs it on Monday and they're going, oh, damn, this is going to be fun. I can't freaking wait for Saturday because this scheme we're putting in this week is badass and I can't wait to learn this and execute it. That's what kids need nowadays. They need to be stimulated. They need to be excited about the plays that you're calling for them. And there's no way you could watch Oklahoma State and think any of that happened today. Bubba, how are we able to consistently draw NFL quality receivers and running back talent, but we can't bring in somebody to throw them the ball? Here's another catch-22. Well, your number one, I can tell you for a fact, I'm not even going to argue this. This is not my opinion. This is a fact. I talked to all these former guys that play for OSU. The reason why we're able to bring these guys in is Casey Dunn. That's why it is in the absolute best interest of Oklahoma State that somehow, some way he figure out how to call plays. Because you talk to these guys that he recruited, they love him, they still stay in contact with him today. And I'm telling you, as soon as Casey Dunn leaves, you're losing a massive network and pipeline of talent of receivers that are going to want to come to Oklahoma State. You're starting from scratch because all the former players that are so close to him and all the former players that still are in contact with him constantly, maybe they don't come back to games, but they still communicate with Casey Dunn constantly. These guys are out recruiting. The Tracy Moores and the Adarius Bowmans and the Mark Moores and all these guys, all the guys that I've talked to, okay? They're out actively recruiting for Oklahoma State, and Casey Dunn has such a connection with his former receivers. I'm telling you, it would be a massive blow to the easement of recruiting in the one area of the team we've been able to recruit elite players. As far as running backs, I think that's just due to just the fact that everybody has good running backs, right? I mean, there's so many of them. I mean, like Utah State had Jaylen Warren, right? Before he came to OSU. I mean, there's just a lot of great running backs. I'll say that. And then I think the system we have ran here from time to time has been very running back friendly. I mean, you know, I think the system Oklahoma State ran made Chuba Hubbard a better player than he was. Justice Hill was good in high school, but I think the system made him better. You know, that kind of thing. I think last year moving to the gap scheme made Ollie Gordon better. PB Shooter 100. Yeah, quit talking. You aren't going to figure it out for whatever reason. We duck, and the whole coaching staff can't figure out why. We can offer solutions until we are blue in the face, but I'm not exactly sure, but it doesn't matter. No one gets it, even our million payday coaches don't. Okay, $1 million payday, yeah. Dayton Dobrinsky, by the way, PB Shooter, thank you so much for joining. Hey, turn on notifications. That way I'm not consistent with my times. I apologize for that. I am on my Dodgers Daily site. At some point, I will get consistent when I do these live shows. So for now, turn on your notifications. That way, whenever I have time and I decide to go live, you'll get a notification. You'll be able to know that I'm on, and you can come join the show, right? Not that you necessarily want to hear from me, but maybe you want to communicate with some of your other Cowboy fans, which is what this is. Yeah, their feelings aren't hurt. There are a million reasons why. Yeah, talking about coaches making $1 million. Okay, so what can the Oklahoma State team do in the bye week like they did last year? You know, last year they used the bye week to move from a zone scheme to a gap scheme. Here's the first thing I'll do. And thank you, PB Shooter 100. I appreciate the wonderful comments you made there, that you love the show here. We love having you here, so keep coming back, no doubt about it. I put this out on Twitter, and I'm telling you, I am an absolute nobody. I don't claim to be anybody. I don't claim to be smart. I don't claim to know what the hell I'm talking about. I claim to be a fan that's sitting behind a microphone giving the highest level of knowledge that my mind has, which is 1/1,000th the size of knowledge base that any coach on the Oklahoma State staff has. Trust me, I am operating under those pretenses because that is 100% true, and it is 100% a fact, okay? So I say that to say I tagged both Mike Gundy and J.W. Walsh, of which neither one of them will see it, but it's kind of fun for me. Why not, right? You never know. I mean, you never know. So about 15 years ago, we went down to Denton, Texas, and we sat and listened to J.W. Walsh's dad, John Walsh. John Walsh was the head coach at Denton Geyer. J.W. Walsh, and then, who was the defensive end that ended up being a really good player at Oklahoma State. I can't remember his name right now. I think he actually played the NFL some. Really self-made type of player. J.W. and that defense, Bean. I think his last name was Bean. Jason Bean, I think was his. No, that doesn't sound right. Bean was his last name. If somebody can remember his first name, if it was Jason, maybe. But that's going to kill me. That's going to bug me until I'm going to get out the show and look his name up here in just a second. But anyways, long story short, we went down and we had a clinic with him, and he showed us the offense they run. What most coaches call it is bash. It's just back away. So it's zone away. So like Oklahoma State runs zone scheme. Let's say it's 5 zone, odd being the left, even being the right. Let's say it's 5 zone. So that's going to the left. Everybody takes a step to the left. If somebody crosses your face, you take them. If they don't, you climb to backer. And then, the guy will try to climb over. Like if you're going to your left and you try to climb around the guy, the defender moving that way, and then you try to climb and then you scrape to backer. And then you hope the guy behind you comes and cleans up the guy that you climbed around, right? I mean, that's the essence of zone scheme. So what this bash concept is it's zone away. So like you're going to zone 25 zone, but then your quarterback and running back are going to actually run 24 zone. Okay. So, and then you have a fast flow, like you'll fake it. Like say Brendan Presley would be one of the backs. Let's say Ollie Gordon's a quarterback and Brendan Presley's the back. So you have Ollie Gordon going sideways, like on a stretch or a sweep type look. And then Ollie Gordon's reading that half player that Mike Gundy talks about. That's half in the box, a half run player. If he comes up and fits on the fast flow look to Brendan Presley, then the quarterback keeps and gets good yardage, right? If that half player stays home, you hand the ball off, and what sets the edge from that defensive end is that the zone is going the other way, so that defensive end steps down just a touch. It's the old Chip Kelly stuff, if you ever remember Oregon with Kenyon Barner and all those guys. You zone one way, you try to hit the edge the other, you try to get that backside defensive end to take that one step down with that zone away look, and that one step down gets you to the edge with a fast guy like Brendan Presley. Zone away scheme is just simply fantastic. But then, so it's like zone away, but then you also have a quarterback read option element to it, where he's either reading that defensive end or he's reading a drop player, and then you have an RPO pass tagged off of that, which would be like a seam route like to Rashad Owens or somebody like that. So one thing I think Oklahoma State could do, J.W. Walsh, who ran this offense to perfection, to state titles in Denton Geyer, okay, and he was fantastic at it. Ryan Bean, I think it was his name. I think that's exactly what his name was. So one thing I think Oklahoma State could do with their time off is they could put this zone away bash scheme. They called it their Denton Geyer dash and derby, right? And they could put Ollie Gordon at the quarterback if he's healthy, or somebody else that can run the ball. And they can read that half player. They can run the zone away. They can hand it to Brendan Presley. They can let Ollie Gordon keep the ball and put that entire package in. Kind of similar to the way that they put in a whole new run scheme, blocking scheme in their offseason last year. I think that's probably the most radical thing you could do, but I think that is something that would absolutely work with this team. It would catch teams by surprise. OSU has never run that bash scheme, not even when J.W. Walsh was here. They have not ever run that zone away scheme. Other teams will be wondering what in the hell just happened. And then it would get Ollie Gordon going. And we know when Ollie Gordon gets going, that sets a mentality of this team of confidence and adrenaline that it just doesn't have right now. I mean, it's just the mentality right now. I mean, you just watch this team. I'm going to go back to it. I said it, and I'm probably repeating myself, but I sat and watched OSU lose to TCU 24-21 in 1991 in their 0-10-1 season, and I left that game feeling like John White, who I think was the running back from UConn. I think that's where he is from, or whoever it may be, Fred Thomas or whoever our players were at that time. I left that game feeling like, damn, man, those kids, they wanted to win for Oklahoma State. They laid that crap on the line all day. They just aren't very good, right? That's how I felt. Again, I'm repeating myself, but I did not leave the game feeling that way. Matter of fact, we have a comment right here from Robbie Rainwater. 4 rows from the field is not a good place for me to sit this year. And I will let him go as far as he wants to go with his comments there, but I can tell you right there, that commenter right there, Robbie Rainwater has been a coach forever. That's a young man that has won Coach of the Year honors in multiple sports. That dude right there knows what he's talking about. And what the reason why I say that, he's probably pissed that I'm pointing him out right now. The reason why I am, he's all right though. He's been pissed at me before, right? so he'll get over. We'll work things out if he is pissed at me for bringing his name up there. But the reason why I say that is, if there is a guy like that out there that is willing to say that, there's hundreds of other people that know the game of football inside and out, upside and down, that feel the same way about the way that this team is. So those are some of my thoughts. I know I probably rambled. This has been, like I said, probably more therapeutic for me than anybody else. Dayton Dobrinsky, I disagree. Enough is enough. I'm not exactly sure what exactly that comment. Yeah, I can't remember not being pissy. Yeah, absolutely, 100% there. But this has been a lot of fun. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We have been going on. You've been listening to me ramble now for an hour and 2 minutes, so I think that's long enough. So, hey, again, off week this week. There will be no press conference. Hopefully Oklahoma State can, again, not fix things. They can change things. I think that's a big difference. You may think it's semantics. I don't. I think it is to the point to where Mike Gundy needs to make changes and not fixes. That's where I'm at. So I want to thank you for tuning in. Again,